Welcome to another top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today we're gonna have a little bit of a different top 5, because I'm gonna try to predict what are gonna be the best decks after the mini-set releases. We've already seen most of the cards, aside from 4 legendaries and 1 epic, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. But as you guys know, most of the time the 4 legendaries are free pack fillers and something usable, so I don't think it's gonna shake up the final mini-set too much. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, a like and subscribe would really help. I have been busting my ass off lately, bringing a lot more videos than usual, so I would really appreciate it if you check those out as well and you drop a like and a comment on them. It really does help the algorithm a lot. Now, let's jump into the top 5. First, let's just take a glance at the cards we have already. As you can see, we have some cool Demon Hunter inclusions, including the new Crow's Nest, which is gonna make people have to play around that a lot more, as well as Kurtrus, because it basically has the same effect. We have a lot more card draw again, and another weird card that's probably gonna give decent support to big Death Rattle Demon Hunter or something. With Druid, we have this cool new way to draw cards, with both Moonlight and Jerry Rig, and we also have the Druid of the Reef, which is basically a Druid Voidwalker now, with the added flexibility of being a free one with Rush, which is basically a 2-mana Murloc. For Hunter we have some cool new buff synergies, which also give you Rush, this cool new Pirate that could actually become something of an archetype at some point, and also we have the Parrot that gives Death Rattle Demon Hunter some support. For Mage, it seems like we have some cool support for some control-y Mage, which is a nice breath of fresh air, especially since it's not support for the goddamn no minion Mage. For Paladin we have some cool stat disruption, so you're gonna be scared of playing big boys nowadays, and also some buff synergies, but I'm not really sure if these are gonna break an archetype of their own. With Priest, here are the 3 cards we have, with some more value generation, some Res Priest support, and also maybe something for Shadow Priest. But I'm not sure after the murder of Elucia that Shadow Priest can really become great again, at least not in Standard. For Rogue we have some discount action with the weapon, and also some deck disruption with Parley, but I'm not sure that's gonna become too meta. Shaman has evolved for their weapon now, which I'm not too sure how good that would be. But probably if we look at the weapons and each cost for them, there's probably gonna be some busted mana point. Maybe to get Doomhammer for free without the overload now. Brilliant Macaw is probably gonna be used in some broken combo. For Warlock we have some more support for Quest Warlock, which I'm not too happy about, both with the Hellbreaker and with Shadowblade. And we also have this new tradable, which I'm not too sure is gonna help Zoo too much. And for Warrior, we have this new 5-1 weapon that is also tradable and becomes a 5-3, so that's kinda busted, but I don't believe it's gonna be too good. Actually, now that I think about it, this weapon does make a lot of sense, because with the quest, if you accidentally draw the weapon before you finish step 1 of the quest, you just get to trade it back and then play the pirate and tether it back as a 5-3 as a 4 mana. So who knows, maybe this weapon is gonna be pretty core for the new quest Pirate Warrior. The Fast Cannoneer is pretty good though, because it deals 4 damage and it's a 3 mana 3-3, which is pretty cool for Standard because there are not too many good cheap pirates. And we also have Man the Cannons, which can be pretty good against aggro decks. And for the neutral cards we have the Maddest Bomber, which is the maddest meme so far. We also have Multicaster, which is probably gonna be useful for some classes, but I'm not sure which ones so far. And we also have the Galaka Glutton, which is basically a pirate Galaka Crawler that eats a Galaka Crawler. As a 3 mana 2-3 that destroys an entire beast, that actually might be pretty good if Face Hunter and Aggro Druid are too good, because it's definitely gonna be worth it to destroy 5 mana beasts for only 3 mana and also be a 3-4 in the process. So it's not gonna be a bad tech card at some point probably. Anyway, enough of the mini-set cards, now let's jump into the top 5 decks. The first one obviously has to be Face Hunter, because we all know when the meta shakes up, we see Face Hunter on the rise, because it punishes unrefined decks. As you can see, the deck looks pretty standard, but we are including the new Doggy Biscuit, which I do believe is gonna make sense in this deck. You could be using it to buff up your Interpit for instance on turn 2, which is basically gonna make it into a frickin' 5-5 on turn 2, and you can also be using it on your Trampling Rhino, so you can get some extra smorg damage. But let's not forget the secondary effect that actually gives Rush once you trade it, which can be pretty good. And you're also gonna be drawing it from Barak Kotobane, which I'm not too sure if it's a good thing or not, because usually when you play Barak Kotobane, you know you're getting that sweet extra burn with Quickshot. All in all, everything else looks pretty standard, and I don't believe any other new cards are gonna get included here so far. The deck is not very cheap, sitting at 7300 dust, so you might think twice before starting to craft it from scratch. Next up we have Aggro Druid, another deck I do believe is gonna be insanely strong once the new cards come out. As you guys saw, we had a crazy win streak with Jadis on my last coaching session, and I would appreciate it if you check out that video too. We went 26 wins and only 3 losses, so yeah, the deck is pretty busted and it probably deserves a nerf, and soon. But for now, this is the reality. Here, the new cards we've included are obviously the new Druid of the Reef, which is pretty good, because it's flexible and also it has premium stats. This also allows us to reduce the amount of Park Panthers we're running in the deck, because you basically run Park Panthers so you can get back on the board, whereas you have this 3-1 rush that also could help you do the same. Another card I think is gonna feel good in this deck is the Moonlight Guidance, which at first glance doesn't make too much sense, but when you think about it, as soon as you have 4 mana, you get to draw a card, play it, and draw a card again. Something with which this deck sometimes struggles, especially if you cannot pull off a good composting. So I do believe this might have some merit to it. Other than that, everything is basically standard. What we took out to include these cards in the deck is the flexible 2-mana spot, which used to be taken by the Towers or Cult Neophyte. And also, like I said, we removed 1 Park Panther and also a Squire, which is not a bad minion to have, but I think we have better options now. This deck is not too expensive, just under 5,000 dust, so you might want to check it out. But keep in mind, something like Oracle of Elune or Razormane Battleguard might get nerfed soon. Next up, we have Pirate Warrior, where we actually include all of the new cards so far. I have removed 1 Reaper Sigh, both the 2 free pirates, and also 1 less athletic studies, so we have room for the new Manda Cannons, which can be pretty good against aggro decks like Aggro Druid for instance. We're gonna be running 2 Defias Cannoneers because that's pretty good, both as an aggro tool and control-y tool. And let's not forget it's a 3-mana pirate, which is not that bad in standard. And we also have the new Blacksmithing Hammer, which can be pretty good because you get to shuffle it back into your deck if you wanna be drawing it as a 5/3 for 4 mana with your quest reward. So with this, there's gonna be no chance for you to actually not draw a weapon with your first quest reward. And it's actually questionable if you want to be removing the Reaper Sigh as a whole, even though it does serve as a pretty good AoE clear, but we might just switch over to just hard aggro. Everything else looks pretty much the same as the standard aggro pirate right now. I do believe that the control-y quest Pirate Warrior is a little bit better, especially in higher ranks, but as you can see, this one has room for a lot of the new cards, so we went with that. The deck is actually pretty cheap too, just under 3,000 dust, so it's pretty budget friendly, and you can give it a go. Basically the quest is the only legendary here, which is pretty nice. Now let's move down to the big boy decks, starting off with OTK Demon Hunter, which I do believe is gonna be even better after the expansion drops. The only new card I've included here is the new 5-mana Skull Gul'dan basically, Need for Greed. It's a tradable card, so you can be flexible with it, but you can also just use it as a 5-mana draw 3 cards, which in some situations is something you're not really gonna be too sad doing. And let's not forget, it's probably gonna be discounted down to 4 because you're gonna draw it on your quest steps, or you can just top deck it and play it for 3 mana instead too. What I removed so I can include this Need for Greed is the Viper, which is also a tradable card, and it was pretty useful for some weapon classes, but let's be honest, we just use it for the draw 1. And in some cases it can get pretty old trading into a tradable card over and over again, whereas with this one you can freely play it as draw free instead. The price tag here is just about 5,000, which is not so bad, but the skill level here is very high, so don't grab this if you're not ready for a challenge. And the last deck sadly is gonna be Quest Warlock, which I'm not too happy about, but we really are seeing good support for it from the new cards, so it's definitely worth a mention. I've removed 1 Altar of Fire, so we can include one of the 4-mana Hullbreakers, which really does make sense in this deck. But you have to be careful with it, because the damage from it is not exact. But drawing 2 cards and progressing your quest like this is basically another Backfire with a body. So I think that's a pretty good card to have in your arsenal, and maybe even 2 of, because it's gonna help you draw your removal spells a lot easier. And let's not forget, Soul Rend is MVP here. The other new card is obviously the Shadowblade Stinger, which I'm not actually sure we need to be running 2 of, and maybe it's gonna be a better idea to just run 1 of this and 2 of the Hullbreaker, but I guess time will tell. Shadowblade is definitely gonna help you stick around longer in the early game, and it's even worth it just to play it on turn 3 with a hero power and a 1-mana deal 2 damage and stick a body. And you can even abuse it with a 0-mana Raise Dead, so that's a 1-mana deal 3 damage. Everything else looks like the standard Quest Warlock. So if you were a Quest Warlock fan before the nerfs, now it should feel even better, because basically it was at the top even before the mini expansion. The price tag here is pretty respectable, sitting at just above 8,000. And again, don't grab this one if you're not ready for a challenge, because it's not an easy deck to pilot optimally, but it really does wonders when you do. Anyway, that's it for this top 5, guys. I hope this helps you get ready for the new mini set and farm some easy wins. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. I'm thse, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.